Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael, and we're going to be getting right back into some more Reddit stories. If you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Now, without further ado, let's begin. This story was posted by a user named Altruistic Bet in the marriage subreddit. The post is titled, "I'm ridiculously attracted to our neighbor. I have no intention to cheat. I feel so much guilt. I am somehow happily married. We have 2 children together and I have a stepdaughter. I am generally quite satisfied with my love life and would never want to risk throwing everything I have away. My husband has betrayed me in many ways in the past, but I have forgiven him and we are relatively good. This is not the first time I have had an intense crush while in a serious committed relationship. I have always distanced myself from whoever it was as much as I could. The problem is that this neighbor lives right next to our home. I see him at least every other day. We get along really well. His long-term partner is lovely, and their son is often at our place. He is very handsome. I have always known that, but I was never this intensely attracted to him. The only difference is that we have been chatting a lot more than usual, and he has started sending me messages, completely innocent, related to kid-friendly activities in the neighborhood, markets, and so on. I guess I am just looking for advice or anecdotes from people to tell me this is fine and will pass in time. Update. I actively avoided the neighbor during the week and put everyone in a group chat. He was still sending me messages, again nothing nefarious, just the same innocent topics, but I stopped answering. He came by yesterday to ask if everything was alright and if he had done something wrong, then I realized I just felt fine. I'm not attracted to him anymore. I still think he's very handsome because I have eyes, but I have no attraction to him whatsoever all of a sudden. He didn't even do anything really, I just feel the same way I used to before. So this intense crush lasted a whole 2 weeks. I'm very glad I did not tell my husband or follow any of the extreme advice given to me by so many people in my first thread that would have ruined what is otherwise a nice relationship with very lovely people. Edit to add, some of you are extremely bizarre. No, I will not be sending you pictures of me. Ask me to in chats and I'm blocking you. Try to flirt with me via chat and I'm blocking you. Send me pictures of yourself in chats and I'm blocking you. Stop being weird. Calm Lotus said, my husband has betrayed me in many ways in the past, but I have forgiven him and we are relatively good. Excuse me, what? I haven't even read the rest of the post and I'm hung up here. Especially since this conveys something about OP, maybe they have resentment they don't fully realize. The word choice of betrayed and bringing it up in the first paragraph is interesting, and to not even dwell on it but try to push past it immediately is notable. To this, Marie O'Marion said, he is not legally the father and the woman somehow wasn't really a mistress. It sounds like the affair partner wants nothing to do with her husband herself. Unless this was a I just want a baby you will do situation. Holy shit, that man sucks. Spurs Fan 80 said, an advice columnist I read suggested anti-fantasizing about your crush. Instead of idealizing them, imagine them at their worst and most petty. Think about them being irritated and yelling at waiters or lazy on the couch asking you to get them the remote, ripping out a big old fart under the covers and so on. It's pretty effective at turning your crush into a real person. Fatal Charm said, this is the thing, you can talk yourself out of attraction. This is what being in a committed relationship is about. Crushes and attractions do happen when you are in a happy relationship, but you have made a commitment to someone to be exclusive with them. So you make the effort to stop feeding the crush, stop thinking about the person, avoid contact with them, and so on. Eventually, the fleeting crush passes and you don't think of them that way again. Relationships take work and effort, and things like this happen. I'm glad OP realized this and didn't feed into the crush. This next post was made in the relationship advice subreddit by a user named JockCDF. The post is titled, I rejected my husband's offer for a threesome, should I divorce? Hi, longtime lurker, first time poster in the community. Background. I and my husband, let's call him E, have been married for over a year and together for over 3 years. E was previously married for 8 years. During that time, he and his ex-husband had an open marriage but eventually divorced amicably. While they were finalizing their divorce, E and I matched on Tinder. We spent almost 3 months just talking online every day through text and FaceTime before we finally met in person. When we did meet, it was while E was searching for an apartment so he could move out of the house he and his ex owned together. From that day on, we became inseparable and eventually made our relationship official. I must say, this is the best relationship I've ever had. We do everything together. We're both physically active, but also enjoy being couch potatoes, whether it's playing video games all night or watching TV. Last year, E got me into RuPaul's Drag Race, and now we spend our Friday nights waiting for the latest episode. In the early stages of our relationship, we discussed what kind of relationship we wanted. I made it clear that I didn't want to be in an open relationship, because it's just not for me. He agreed and said he wanted a monogamous relationship, as that was one of the factors that led to the failure of his previous marriage. We also discussed his preferences regarding his fantasy, which I believe is called a stag or cuckold kink. He shared that he fantasizes about me being intimate with another man, maybe me using or being used by someone else. I admitted that it would be difficult for me to fulfill that fantasy, but I was willing to find a compromise. So we introduced toys into our sex life and began incorporating talk about scenarios involving other people during our intimate time. This approach seems to work as he appears to be satisfied. Over a year later, we got married. It was a mid-sized wedding with around 80 guests at a nice venue, about 45 guests on his side and 35 on mine, mostly family and a few friends. We went on a nice honeymoon to Hawaii, staying an entire week there. Earlier today, E and I made plans for some intimate time. While we were in bed and I was scrolling through TikTok, he asked me a question. You probably already know what it is from the title of the post. He asked if I'd be willing to open up the marriage for a threesome. He then went on a whole speech encouraging me to keep an open mind and think about it. Once he was done, I immediately said no and asked him what his reasons were for wanting it. He gave me 2 reasons: fun and excitement. I asked him if our sex life was boring and if that's why he wanted to do that. He said no and that he just wants to spice things up a little. He also mentioned that he had been meaning to ask me this for a while but got too scared to do so. He has been wanting a threesome for some time. I argued, saying, it's boring for you. You wouldn't want to spice things up if it weren't. I told him that we were becoming sexually incompatible and suggested that we might need to consider being legally separated. Even though I love you and this is going to suck, it's better to end this now because it's something I cannot fulfill. It's against my morals, and even if I did it once, it would kill my mental health to go against my principles just to please you. He got quiet and eventually said that we should go to couples counseling. I told him that there's nothing wrong with him. A lot of gay and straight couples have open relationships, even polyamorous ones, but that's not for me or something I want to be part of. I said it's better to end it now before it reaches a point where he might resent me for not fulfilling his fantasy. After that, we just lay there in bed, deep in our thoughts, and then he went to the store to grab something or cool off. What do you think we should do? Update. I'm here to update you all on recent happenings since my last post. First, I want to thank everyone who offered advice, both good and bad. I took bits and pieces from the comments and used them to guide the questions I asked him. Since my last post, I've been sleeping on the couch for the past 2 nights because I didn't want to be around him. Last night, when I got home from work, my husband and I spent nearly 3 hours discussing our relationship and the threesome he wanted us to engage in. I was very emotional throughout the conversation, and while I may have forgotten some details, I remember the important points clearly. He was very apologetic after seeing how his request upset me, and he assured me that he didn't mean to make a big issue of it. I started asking him questions. I asked if there was a specific person he had in mind for us to engage with, and he said no. I also asked if he had slept with anyone else since we've been together, and he said no. I asked if something had happened or changed that made him want a threesome. He said no, but mentioned that he wanted to ask just in case my stance on threesomes or non-monogamy had changed. I asked him again to clarify what he meant by spicing things up, and he explained that we've been having vanilla sex, which is why he made the suggestion. I told him there's nothing wrong with vanilla sex, but there are other ways to spice things up without involving non-monogamy, like the adult toys we use from time to time. I then reiterated that I'm seriously considering separation because of his requests. I also reminded him of our plan to buy a house later this year or early next year and eventually adopt a child to raise as our own. I explained that open marriages have a high failure rate, and I don't want to adopt a child only for them to experience us separating because our marriage failed. While this isn't the case for all open marriages, I'm not willing to take that risk, and I don't want that dynamic in our relationship. He apologized again and said that his stag/cuckold fantasies were just that, fantasies, and that he could live without them being fulfilled. He said he can just get off and be back to normal. He also told me that he still loves me very much and wants to spend the rest of our lives together. I expressed that my trust is shaken and it's going to take a lot of work for us to get back to where we were. He then suggested couples counseling again, and I agreed. I also brought up the idea of seeing a sex therapist, either for him individually or for both of us, to help us better understand each other and possibly explore new fantasies we can enjoy together without involving non-monogamy. He promised not to bring up anything about non-monogamy again. I want to thank everyone who responded to my post. I understand some of you hoped for a different outcome, but I didn't want to end the relationship solely because of sexual fantasies. I truly hope I made the right choice and won't end up with a broken heart down the line. Hopefully, this will be the last update on this topic, but if there's more, I'll be sure to reach out again. I'd also love to hear everyone's take on this. Did I make the right choice by not ending the relationship outright? Edit, to clarify, when I said my trust is shaken, I was referring to our relationship. I'm questioning everything we've planned together, including whether we should move forward with the house and having children. I don't want to deepen our commitments if this is something he strongly feels about and cannot compromise on or live without. In that case, those plans would definitely need to be reconsidered. Drya Duinath said, "It's the conversations they had before, for me. How can you talk through how you both want to be monogamous, how the cuckolding fantasy would be difficult but doable with toys, and then ask for a threesome? Yes, communication is important, but listening is a big part of that. I would not feel listened to if I were OP. To this, yeah, like whatever said, the husband seems like someone who has perpetual FOMO. I'm sure in his previous marriage, the open relationship started as a way to spice things up, but then that got boring. He missed the stability and security of monogamy. So with OP, he insisted that was what he wanted, but now he is getting bored again. He is just never happy with what he has because he's always afraid that he's somehow missing out on something Pufnskores said. It seems as if OP's hardline stance on monogamy is ratcheting up the potential thrill of a cuckolding session. By insisting on monogamy as moral and principled, his husband is spiraling deeper into wanting to break him for the biggest thrill of all. But if he does, then OP will be emotionally broken, and his husband will spend all his time dismissing it as nothing. The secret thrill of watching OP crash afterward will be an even bigger thrill. None of this sounds thrilling to me, and probably not to OP either. There is zero doubt in my mind that this conversation will be revisited. Getting OP to hear the question and remain in the marriage was step one in breaking his resolve. This is the beginning, not the end. This final post was made in the relationship subreddit by a user named Ambitious Finish. The post is titled, "Fiancé doesn't want to introduce me to her friends or interact with them. My fiancé doesn't want me to talk to her best friends at all before marriage. We have been dating for 2.5 years and most of that time has been public. We both liked posting pictures or reels of ourselves from vacations or times together and were very clear on Instagram that we were in a relationship. However, she doesn't have many real-life followers from work or personal life on her Instagram. She has around 7 or 8 really good friends she meets regularly and 1 cousin. We are both mature adults and decided to get married in late 2024, either November or December. Last month, I thought it would be better to introduce her to my family, so with her consent, we met at a nice restaurant in the city. My family liked her and decided to fix a wedding date. However, my fiancé said it would be too early to get married this year, so we agreed on February 20th, 2025, 6 months from now. In my city, it is necessary to book wedding halls early to secure a good venue, so with her consent, I discussed it with my family and booked a hall. A few days later, she also booked a hall for her side of the party. It is normal in our culture to have parties from both the bride's and groom's sides. So far, I have introduced her to my family and one female friend who lives in a different town with her boyfriend. Both meetings were well planned. She also met another friend of mine accidentally at the mall. I have never met her friends properly, only once or twice by chance when I was driving her somewhere and 2 or 3 of her friends hopped in. We just exchanged a few words during the ride. Her friends know we are dating, of course. Last week, a strange incident left me confused. I received a text from one of her friends on Instagram. Before this, I had only spoken to this friend once a year ago when my fiance and I were fighting and not talking. I messaged this friend politely, asking her to talk to my fiance because she was going through a lot. Financial issues, a big loan, and fights with me and her family. The friend said she would. Shortly after, my fiance called me angrily about me messaging her friend and told me never to talk to her again. I was surprised but complied because our relationship was unstable then. Later that day, the friend messaged me saying she couldn't help and blocked me on Instagram. I accepted it and didn't respond. That was last year. Now, the same friend texted me last week because she couldn't reach my fiance by phone and was worried. I replied politely saying my fiance was probably busy with work and that I would inform her. When I told my fiance, she reacted angrily, asking me to block that friend on Instagram. I found this immature and refused. My fiance said if I didn't block her, the friend would. Moments later, I was blocked again. This time, I got a little angry and messaged the friend on her other Instagram account, saying I didn't like being blocked twice and that it was disrespectful. I also wrote, if your husband has self-respect, he should not text my girlfriend when you have issues. She replied that her husband, she, and my fiance were friends long before I came into the picture. I politely explained I didn't want to break their friendship but felt disrespected. She didn't reply and inform my fiance. My fiance then became very angry with me for referring to her friend's husband. I felt that was the only logical way to express myself. I am serious about her and introduced her to my family and friends. She has no family. Her parents passed away and her cousins live far away or in other countries, so her friends will be the ones present at our wedding from her side. I expected her to take me more seriously and not ask her friends to block me on Instagram. She often visits this female friend's house, sometimes having sleepovers or parties with the friend and her husband, such as birthday parties. I have never properly gone out or met any of her friends officially. I told her a couple of times that her friend brings her husband and baby to group meetings, so maybe I could also meet them once. But she is strictly against this, and the recent blocking incident seriously bothers me. My fiance says her ex-boyfriends bothered her friends before, and she doesn't want that to happen again. This might have made sense a year ago, but now, with our wedding 6 months away, she is still hesitant and says she will introduce me to her friends only after marriage. Also, when she gets married, these friends will likely help with her side of the wedding arrangements, so I need to talk to them for planning. I haven't spoken to my fiance for 2 days because of this. She says she is unsure about the marriage after I express my desire to meet her friends and accuses me of being controlling. I feel she will contact me soon. Am I asking for the right thing by wanting to meet her friends? What should I do? Update. A few days ago, I posted about how my girlfriend asked one of her best friends to block me on Instagram. It hasn't been long since that blocking incident, but today I was surprised to learn that my girlfriend's mother, whom she always claimed was dead, is actually alive. A few weeks ago, the friend who is already married with 1 child texted me asking about my girlfriend's whereabouts because she couldn't reach her. When my girlfriend found out, she immediately told me to block that friend, but I refused. Eventually, my girlfriend made that friend block me, and the rest of the story is in my previous post. Since then, I have not been able to trust her. My girlfriend always told me she had no family. She said she was an only child and that both her parents had passed away. She said she visited her aunt at her countryside home every 3 to 4 months, staying for 2 to 3 days each time, but something always seemed off. For example, whenever she received a phone call, the contact name showed as Dad Home, and a woman would answer whom she always referred to as her aunt. My girlfriend has already met my parents, and we were supposed to get married this coming February. My parents were hesitant about the marriage because of the secrecy and the fact that my girlfriend asked her best friend to block me. I thought it was just a generational difference and tried to make my parents understand that it might not be a big deal. Still, my parents didn't like the relationship. Last week, they went near my girlfriend's office and asked one of her colleagues if she knew about her parents. The colleague didn't know much about her family. I know my parents were wrong to do that, but they were probably trying to look at the suspicious things from an outsider's perspective and wanted to keep me safe. I later told them it was wrong to involve the professional space. They agreed not to ask again, but urged me to do proper research before moving forward with the marriage. I tried to see my parents' point of view and the whole situation from an outsider's perspective, which made me increasingly impatient. My girlfriend won't let me talk to any of her friends or relatives or follow them on social media. She says she won't introduce me to her family because they would never approve of our marriage, as intercaste and intercommunity marriages are still not widely accepted in some parts of India. However, she always said her parents were open-minded and that her upbringing was modern. She also criticized my family for being suspicious and backward, saying that if her parents were alive, they would have definitely come to the wedding. My parents liked my girlfriend when they first met her and were happy about the marriage. My father even offered to sponsor the wedding expenses for her side as she wasn't doing well financially, but they became suspicious when she had her best friend block me. All these things combined made me very suspicious, so I decided to visit her countryside village house today to check. I went there pretending to look for someone else. When I knocked on the door, her mother came out. I know it was her mother because my girlfriend had shown me photos of her before. It was like encountering a ghost. She looked fit and healthy, smiling, and resembled my girlfriend. My girlfriend and I have not been talking properly since the day my parents went to her office. She called my parents crazy and accused them of spying on people, saying people from my community are clever, cunning, and suspicious. But she never admitted to lying about her mother's death. I told her that while it was wrong for my parents to ask at her office, it was also wrong for her to speak badly about my family when she was acting suspicious, asking friends and family to block me, and faking her mother's death. I haven't spoken to my girlfriend about this since, and I don't know what to make of it. This was a huge lie, and I don't see a valid reason for it. Her father, as I confirmed from locals nearby, had indeed passed away, and her mother was living there with her aunt, who lived in a different house just next door. I want to know if there could be any valid reason or explanation for this because I can't think of any. Her mother looked fit and healthy, roughly 50 to 60 years old. Update 2. It's been roughly a month since I posted my question about the strange behavior of my fiancée and her lying about her mother being dead. Today, I want to share a small update because many of you have been asking for it. After discovering that her mother was still alive, I was shocked for a few days. Gradually, I started to feel better, although I was still eager to understand if I had done anything wrong, especially since I had seen both the good and bad sides of her. Now that some time has passed and I can think more clearly, I reflect on what I know about her. She is naturally very compassionate and has shown great kindness towards animals, adopting or helping several street animals during the 3 years we were together. I've seen her experience happiness, sadness, and vulnerability. I've seen her good sides, but she has also been very harsh in her feelings towards my community, language, my parents, and even me. She clearly did things that were wrong, like discouraging interaction with her friends and lying about her mother's death, among other things. She also lied to me another time in the past, which I consider the second biggest lie after the story about her mother's death. One night she arrived in my city a day earlier than planned from her village home. I found out because I'd been calling her repeatedly. She said she wanted to surprise me, but we didn't meet that day because she asked me not to come over, claiming she was tired and unwell. Later that night, I called her multiple times, but she didn't answer. The next morning, I went to her flat and found she wasn't there. A few hours later, she called me from a friend's phone and explained she had gone to her friend's house because her friend's boyfriend had come to stay, and the watchman wouldn't allow another man in the flat. So they pretended to be family relatives to cover it up. I forgave her for lying that time and chose to trust her again. In hindsight, it was another significant lie, the second biggest during our relationship after the fake mother's death. About 7 or 8 days ago, I noticed her repeatedly posting WhatsApp updates about how badly I treated her, how lonely she felt, and how I broke up with her. During that time, I attended a party with some friends and she posted stories that directly defamed me, even though we had already broken up and I had every right to socialize with whoever I wanted. That day, I messaged her after seeing her status updates, partly because I was angry and partly because I wanted to know the real reason behind her lie about her mother's death. She responded with a lengthy message listing the following reasons. She said she lied about her mother being dead because her mother never got proper respect in her past relationship. Her ex probably never let her stay at her mother's village house for more than 2 days. Her ex-boyfriend was roaming around the city with other girls and probably even cheated on her while her mother was in the hospital. She thought her mother would get proper respect if she lied about her mother being dead, like her deceased father, who is treated respectfully after his death. None of these reasons seemed serious enough for me to believe. I pointed out that about 90% of her reasons were related to her ex-boyfriend and asked why she had to lie about her mother, especially since I had always been supportive regarding her family issues. I told her her explanations didn't make sense to me. She later said I was wrong to say she has narcissistic personality disorder. She said she had consulted a psychologist who diagnosed her with complex PTSD, which can cause narcissistic traits at times. Even so, I don't see how that justifies creating such a complex story about her mother to deceive both me and my parents, even giving a specific date for her mother's death anniversary. She was also upset with my parents because they found the situation suspicious and started asking questions. Although I feel bad and believe she may be dealing with behavioral disorders, I also suspect there is a deeper, more complex secret, whether hers or her family's, that has led to all these stories. In my last conversation with her, I made it clear that regardless of what she says, we are not in a position to restore the marriage. I don't want to hurt her by doubting her, nor do I want to hurt myself. Trust cannot be rebuilt after everything that's happened, so I asked her to just tell me the truth. However, nothing substantial came from her that I could consider. So that's the update. I've decided to move on with my life without her, as there's no way forward in this situation. Puzzle-Headed Tap said, I wonder if she was openly engaged or married to someone else, and OP was the ATM she was engaged to, which is why she forbade him from contacting or being contacted by anyone else from her life. Albatross said, it is probably a cultural thing, but why didn't he just go and talk to the mother? It could have advanced the situation instead of the circular nonsense I just read. To this Sushi Roll said, there are many cultural factors at play here. Dating is heavily frowned upon by most Indian families unless it leads to marriage. Marriages between people from different communities, classes, or castes are often looked down upon. Weddings are entire family affairs, unlike in the West, so he cannot simply approach this woman and call himself her daughter's fiance. The fact that she did not know him or meet and speak to his family means that, from her perspective, they are not engaged at all. This is not to say these conventions are never broken, but it was probably too unpredictable for him to try to open that can of worms in that moment. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video, and thank you also to partner of the channel, GamerSupps. Use code DLAM to support the channel and get 10% off of your purchase, link in the description. I'm sure many of you like me have a hankering for daily caffeine, so go check them out. Lately, I've been a big fan of Titty Milk and Acid Rain, but they've got dozens of other flavors for y'all to try out. Anyway, thanks again for reaching the end, and I hope you all have an amazing passage of the next 24 hours.